Welcome to Paranormal Heart Podcast with host Kat Ward. Welcome, my friends, to Paranormal Heart Podcast. Tonight's segment is pre-recorded, streaming on United Public Radio Network, 107.7 New Orleans, as well as 105.3 the Gulf Coast. I'm your host, Kat Ward. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for tuning in each week. I mean, the numbers are growing with each segment, and I just want to say how much I really appreciate you all. So thank you. The views and opinions expressed on Paranormal Heart Podcast are not necessarily those of the show, the host, network, or producers. Paranormal Heart Podcast is always respectful and courteous to all involved. Folks, my special guest tonight is a return guest and UPRN sister, Lorilei Potvin. I know I said that in French because I have a hard time saying it in English. In segment 41, Lorilei will be exploring the Akashic Records. Pretty exciting topic. So thank you, Lorilei, for being here.
Thank you for having me back. And you said my last name perfectly. Nobody says it that way, but that's how you do say it in French.
Yeah, well, I do speak French, so I see some words and I'm like, I can't say that the English way. It just doesn't come out.
I could probably do the podcast. We could do it in French. No one would understand us, but we could.
Well, I've lost a lot of my French too, so I don't know. It would be more like chiec from back home, which is Frenglish, half French, half English. So first, before we get into this, I just want to say, so one of my long-term listeners, Mort, reached out to me last time you were on the show, and he said that because we had touched on Akashic Records just briefly, and he messaged me saying he wanted to learn more. So ask, my audience, all you have to do is ask and you shall receive. So I reached out to you and here you are.
Well, thank you. I don't know why it's so dark. I have light coming in through here, light up there, light here, you guys. So I apologize. Now it gets light as soon as I say it.
My camera has been doing the same thing the last little while. And I'm just like, why? I don't know if it's something in my camera on my laptop that's adjusting. I don't know. It's just so weird. Nothing changes.
That's crazy. Sorry, I was getting a message. I was like, who's messaging me? Is it important? No, it is, but we'll deal with it later.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mort, for asking, because even though I rattle off what I do on my show at the Angel Rock here on Monday nights, and then I think I know who Mort is because he pops in. So thank you, Mort.
He's everywhere.
And we love when people pop in, and it's like a big family, right? We all get to know the regulars that pop in for all our shows. And then even on Thursday nights, I co-host Beneath the Hollow Moon with Kerrilynn Shellhorn, our other host and friend of ours, who has, I'm going to give her a shout out, Spirit Switchboard on Fridays. We don't always get to talk about what we do in our practice when we're not on air. So I'm glad he asked about the Akashic Records.
Mm-hmm. I'm also going to be having another lady talk about that in another month or so. Mm-hmm. But yeah, because I am familiar with it, obviously, but I don't know a whole lot about it. So this is going to be a learning curve for me as well.
Okay, so with the Akashic Records, and one of my besties, Leanne, she's been on the Angel Rock, and we're working on our first course, hopefully getting it out in the fall. We're going to start teaching. She does the Akashic Records, but she does it different than me. So for people who may have heard what the Akashic Records is, but they're not really sure kind of what is this, some people will refer to it as a library. I tend to look at it as limitless. And I've been taught this way. My mentor is out of Los Angeles, Amy Robeson. I'm going to give her a shout out. Excellent teacher. And I took it years ago. I've taken 2 of her courses. So the theory is the Akashic Records is basically everything on this planet, whether it be a building, whether it be people, you name it. There's a record of whatever there was, what there is, and what there will be. But the problem is people think, well, if there's a record of everything, why are we here? If it's all scripted out, why are we here? So I tend to look at it more concrete from past lives, the past. Present, I think, can be rerouted. It can be rewritten. And I have an example, actually, personally, with that. And then the future. I think it's almost like an outline of, if you will, And then as we go through it, it's sort of documented, if
Okay.
that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the way like the lady that's coming on will probably do it completely different than I do. The way I've been taught to do it is I have a client, say if it's with a client, say it's you and I, and you come to see me. The one thing I will tell you, and I've been taught this, and I think it does make sense, is we ask our clients not to use any alcohol or anything else they may use that they don't use regularly, because some people are on medications and
Yep.
it's going to affect their energy signature. Then for 24 hours. And then also, and you don't need to be in front of me. I've worked with people over in Japan even. So I'm going to get your permission. And then together, I'm going to get you to take some breaths to access the records is where I'm going. And instead of not just dropping into the heart chakra, people may hear, human beings, and depending on who's hearing this, chakras or chakras, how you want to call it, we have these invisible energy centers through the core of our body, above and below. There's one called the heart chakra. I actually work with my clients to drop into the heart space, which is close to the heart chakra, but it's been taught to me and it feels this way. It's the seat of the soul, if you will. So when we do this, I then have a little bit of I'm going to call it a prayer. It's not religious denomination. I'm going to ask you your permission. And then I have 3 crystals that Amy did. There's a bunch of us in the course that she channeled from spirit and sent us all to work with crystalline energy. So we make this connection. I like to use an infinity symbol. I guide the person to drop into their heart center. And basically what we do, the group I work with is the masters, teachers, and loved ones, as I was taught to call them. They could be called anything else. And it's a collective of very high vibrational souls, if you will. There's angels, Mother Mary, saints, you name it. Could be Buddha, anybody, right? And you can just work with one, but I prefer to work with them as a collective. I kind of feel like I get a more well-rounded answer. And it's going to sound very simplistic, but say you come to me and you have a question and we want some guidance. So we connect with the masters, teachers, and loved ones, and they will always meet you or myself, even if I'm doing it too, for myself, where we're at. You're never going to receive something negative. You're never going to receive something scary or foreboding. And so say you ask I don't like to tell people what my life purpose is, right? I don't, or theirs. So, but say you come to me and you say, what's my life purpose? So we'll go into the records, we'll connect with the masters, teachers, and loved ones. We will ask that question. And what I receive intuitively, I will discuss, say, with you, and we will follow it up with more and more and more and more questions. And people get a lot of guidance that way. And again, you are free to either accept it, take what resonates, leave the rest. And that's basically what it is. It's almost, if you will, I call myself the male person, or that's what I am. I'm not doing it. The person that comes to me is wanting to access more information, if you will, about their soul plan, maybe previous lives. I don't think I've had anybody ask about the beginning, but say I've not worked with someone, but the examples we've been given is somebody wants to buy a property for a business. Is this the proper space maybe to go to? Is there a better opportunity or a better property maybe that might work better with my business? Because everything has a record. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make it really simplistic.
No, it sure does. Yeah. A quick question though. Does everyone who does this, like you said, you use crystals? Do everyone use? Oh, good grief! I can't English. So not yeah. So not everyone uses crystals. And what kind do you use?
Okay, so like I said, and I'm not married to these crystals, but Amy teaches, her Facebook page is called Sacred Awakenings. I'd encourage you guys to check her out because she does quite a bit for free with people. Like I know with the Akashic Records, she just had a 10-day masterclass every day for a couple of hours, and she leaves you with something. She will teach you something every single day. So she works with crystalline energy. That is her thing, to connect with spirit. So for myself, she channeled and I found this in here. Where did I find it in here? Because I haven't got it memorized. But she channeled for me that would work best to access the records. Sodalite. I have the crystals here. Rainbow obsidian and green apatite. Now, the other thing that she does, when you say you've never ever worked within this spiritual realm or field, she also channels the way I was taught. Now, it may have changed. It's been quite a few years since I've taken the course. She channeled a specific type of pendulum, too, that was included in the course material she sent. And the reason why for the pendulum is so that you could check your answers to see what I'm picking up, what I'm feeling intuitively. Is this what I'm actually picking up to be able to? So I have a pink quartz pendulum she sent. These are my crystals. I just had this. Well, give me a minute. I had it pulled up in my pot, close the page. Okay. So she then gave me a write-out. I can show you guys. I have a whole little binder I put up together with the course. Now my cat likes to play with stuff here. So this was like, she gave us a write-up on each crystal and why it was channeled and what the meanings were. Green apatite, the obsidian, and exactly rainbow obsidian. Below it, for example, earth element, root chakra, origin from earth. She gives you a bunch of information and what she got from spirit. And then I got sodalite as well. And each one of those elements are covered. So the way I've been taught is to access through the crystalline energy. And you may find that the lady that comes on next may tell you it's a library and doesn't work with the masters, teachers, and loved ones. Now, do I think that one way is better than the other? No. You know what? Any vehicle that you take to get the answers from a place of love and high vibration is perfect. And whatever works with each one of us, when we will work with the people that are meant to work with us. Like attracts like energy. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. If you've got the answers that you're seeking or the guidance, and it's helping you to move forward in your purpose as to why you're here, you'll find the right person. My friend, Leanne doesn't do it this way. Sorry, what did you
just froze up on me?
Oh no, not again. Are we here?
Let's pause this for a moment. And yeah, we're back. We froze for a second. I don't know who's who, but okay. Yeah. So I'm guessing that with the Akashic records, it's probably custom to each individual because depending what they feel a connection to. Does that make sense?
So are you talking about the person that's accessing the records or the
yes. So you use crystals and other people don't. So is it just however somebody feels? If they feel a connection with crystals, they'll use them. If not, they won't?
The reason why, I've always felt a call to the Akashic records. I would hear it and something would twinge within me. And how it happened, I didn't know that Amy used crystalline energy to access the records. I went to a free master class. My mentor, Amy, in case that might have cut off, Amy Robeson. And I really resonated with it because I also work a lot with crystals. Now, you may, that's where I was going, and I think it cut off. My best friend, Leanne, for example, or the lady you may have on, she will totally use a completely different way to enter into the records and to access the information. Of course, the practitioner, Akashic Records practitioner, regardless of what tools they use to access the records, right? As long as you're receiving the information that's safe for yourself or your clients, there's many different ways to do that because we're all individual and unique. So you need to use crystals. And I'm going to be real honest with you. By the time I took this first course, I went, holy crap, I think I've been doing this always anyways. They just didn't have something formal with it. Because I don't, you have to go to an Akashic Records practitioner to access your records. If you are intuitive, you're able to quiet your mind. Whether you want to call them the masters, teachers, and loved ones, or you say, I'd like to access my records. Get into a quiet meditative state. Ask some questions and see what you receive. So where I started, and I think it may have froze up, with Amy, which helped people that maybe have never accessed their intuitiveness before or don't know how to trust it, or because that's a big thing when we start, especially if you're starting this a little later in life. So she also channeled a particular pendulum. So
Mhm.
you check your answers with yes or no or what, and it really helps to build confidence. The reason why I don't like pendulums though, and I don't use them, the only time I do is when I do crystal Reiki, because I don't have a vested interest. I call this my stupid pet trick. So I'm going to tell you what this is going to do. It's going to go back and forth. I'm going to say stop. Now it's going to go around in circles. My hand moved. If I do it this way, it's easier, but you can't see the pendulum, so my arm doesn't move. Okay, so ask it to go and count clockwise circles. Stop. I'm going to get it to go up to the left, down to the right. Stop. And I call it the stupid pet trick. It's not. It's just that when you understand energy and you're able to focus it and manipulate it, and I'm not special, anybody can do it. So I know if I have a vested interest, I could, like say I'm checking, if I use this to check an answer, I'm really feeling unsure, or I really think it's a yes, I could make say a yes. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
But it works for people just starting out. And I still do use pendulums, like I said, with crystal Reiki, when I'm checking people's chakras. That's what I do with crystal Reiki. And even their energy field, I'll use a pendulum because I don't have a vested interest in the outcome. I'm completely neutral, so I know I can trust what I'm receiving.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's interesting to know that people would have different approaches to access records. I mean, it's like my mom always said, 3 + 1 or 2 + 2, they all equal 4. It's just different ways to get there, but you all have the same outcome.
Yeah, but it's the same thing, like I've said, and religion gets a bad rap for many reasons. I'm not pro or anti-religion. I say I'm a retired Catholic. But I've since, I think this came from spirit and a few different podcasts I watched, hearing people talk about this, and it really resonated. And the thing is, I think I said this earlier, I don't know if it had cut off or not, but it's whatever vehicle you take to bring you to, if you will, a better state or a better place of love, or feeling, you're going in the right direction. It doesn't matter what vehicle you take, it gets you from point A to point B where you want to be. So again, I truly believe that the people I'm meant to work with will find me. Whereas, say, my friend Leanne, they'll find her, they'll find I'm sure she's a lovely, wonderful lady that's coming on soon about the Akashic records. But it's like that with anything within this field. I think we like people, like energy attracts like energy.
Definitely, yeah. That's for sure.
So you could do it. I think anybody could do it. But I'm not that type of person within this field that gets really hung up on, like, yes, I wanted to learn how to do this properly. Yes, I would still follow what some guidelines of what I've been taught, but I've worked with it long enough. I kind of know what works and what doesn't. But I'm the same way. Well, I'll back it up a bit. So Spirit gave me this, and if you watch my shows, or I used to go live a lot more, I just haven't had the time. And this came from Spirit, and it's what you perceive becomes what you believe, and it becomes your reality. So if you believe, for example, that you can only eat a certain diet, and this is the only way you're going to be able to access, say, the other side, that will become your reality. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes there's physical attributes as well, that somebody's body just functions better with a particular diet.
Yes.
I don't get hung up on that. And I think that's why Kerrilynn and I work well together. She's taught a course, I think it's called Who's Your Bob, meaning the name of your spirit guide. I
love that.
I've never been hung up on the name of my spirit guide, because in the beginning, maybe, because everybody was saying, what's the name of my angel? What's the name of this? But since I've been doing this for so many years, I've recognized that it's more about energy. Naming is a human thing. They don't necessarily use names on the other side. Does that make sense?
It sure does, yes.
My goal is, I think, with working with people and being a teacher and mentor, is whatever works best with you. And everybody is unique and different. And I think the main thing is discovering what works for, say, you or someone else listening or someone else, because what works for me may not work for you.
Yep.
And that's part of even with teaching, right? It's finding that little doorway. And like one of my friends, she completely connects through crystals for herself, not even with the Akashic Records, but music is her vehicle. My vehicle is creating,
Mhm.
working with resin, sculpting. And do you see what I'm saying? So it's finding
Mhm.
whatever opens that doorway for you. And I believe every human being on this planet has that birthright and that ability to be able to do it. Some right away from birth, and have never needed a mentor, but those that maybe have forgotten those abilities, it's like getting on a bike again, just having somebody that works with you and guides those abilities till you too remember how to open that doorway. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just noticed something here. Okay. Um, yeah, I've always thought that if you need, so people get hung up on, I have to use this, I have to use a crystal, I have to use a crystal. If a fork is going to help you
Yes.
um, concentrate, you
Yes.
believe in that fork. That's,
Mhm.
yeah, I've always believed that. So, yeah.
So the way I look at it is and you'll hear Hall of Records. I like to
Yep.
look at, I don't see it as a library, and a lot of people describe it that way. To me, it's just this big, open, beautiful, beautiful space of knowledge, and it's there for you to be able to check in and see. And I encourage people, if you can get, take some deep breaths, make sure you're grounded, call in your angels or your guides or your team and ask them to work with you, and sit and ask some questions with a piece of paper and a pen, and just start to write what you hear. Do not question it, just write.
Hmm.
And right in the beginning, yeah, I hate the term monkey mind, but the mind gets in the way. But once we get into the process, I think many people will be surprised what they end up writing by the time they really get into the process. Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago when I was living back in New Brunswick, I was working at a deli, and I had this is way before the internet was the way it is, no Facebook or anything like that. And I can't remember, there was this chat room that I was in, and I was looking for like-minded people, in paranormal stuff. And this one girl said what was it? Anyway, so I was laying down one night before going to bed, and I reached out my mind, and I'm like, okay, who are you? Like we're going to set a date and time to meet, go for coffee, whatever. And then it happened. I just heard in my mind that, well, I'm a regular shopper. You'll know me when you see me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. Sure enough, next time I saw her, I'm like, you're her, aren't you? And she smiled. She says, yeah. She didn't know about what I had done, but she understood it. She wasn't surprised. But
Because we have universal consciousness, and if we
yeah.
truly are all a bit and piece of each other,
Mm-hmm.
right, we're connected, even though we haven't been led to believe this or necessarily understand this. And I like to teach with analogies. So I say, and I'm not oversimplifying things, whether you want to call it God, Buddha, source, the universe, whatever. When this, we'll say source, decided they were going to create this universe, and say they were a big, giant, I'm going to say ball of clay, if you will, and decided I'm going to create the universe, and I'm going to create all the animals and pull some of this clay off, and the animals and all the people and the trees and the grass and everything. Even though they're separate entities, they all came from the same ball of clay. So you are all connected. And quantum physics is even starting to prove some of this science, that's why I can do the work that I do, and many people. You don't need to be physically in front of me. We're talking about energy. And I really believe there is
And
no,
string theory.
yeah, exactly. There's no limit to energy, or how when we go into that universal consciousness that we can't connect and pick out. Like, that's a beautiful example
Mm-hmm.
that you just gave. Now, one thing I would love to share is, I had mentioned at the beginning of the show that present Akashic records can be altered. And I'm going to give an example. There was somebody I knew that had a horrible, horrible, horrible attachment. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to look in the eyes of another human being and see that look of evil. And what they could just do with a look, that when this attachment hadn't taken over, that was not them. They were pure love, very kind, very sweet, very amazing. Okay. But I'd seen them levitate on camera that night. I didn't know what I know now. And I'm thinking they were in a different country. And I was seeing this all going on, like literally looking at their adult child and just with a look, the kid is balled up on the floor crying. The animals were whelping, just looking. And I know this person would never have ever been able to do something like this had this attachment not been there. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like who's awake at this time of night? Found somebody that worked within the paranormal 3 hours in the same time zone versus what I was, because it was 3 o'clock in the morning, my time. They weren't necessarily a lot of help, but they did witness some of the things I was talking about. They did not see the levitation on camera, but I was sitting there about an hour and a half later. I'd gotten off the phone. It was actually on video. And I thought, what can I do for this person? And I thought, I know, I'm going to say the Our Father in my head. And I kid you not, Kat, I was saying the Our Father, and I get a message on Facebook Messenger, cut that bleep, bleep, you know what, out. I know what you're doing. Like, how would you know? You're in a different country. I'm not talking to you. And then about an hour later, I got, it's time. By that time, I got a little riled up and said, okay, let's go. Didn't hear anything else. So it really, really affected me. And the next day I did reach out to Amy. I had long since done her courses. And I said, listen, I really need some guidance with this because this isn't my wheelhouse. Long story short, we had quite a conversation. And then she said, let's go into the records. And I said, yeah, okay. So with my permission, she asked for the masters and teachers and loved ones to sever any prior agreements, contracts, anything that I may have had with this person in a previous life, in present life, and so on. And the most incredible thing happened. This person, I never had a fight with. I don't fight with people anyways, but I never had an argument. I never had a disagreement. I had nothing. It was literally like the friendship just melted away. They went off in a different direction. We were always friendly, like maybe tag me in something once a year, every year and a half, whatever. So I truly, truly, truly believe there was no other reason for why that happened, except that through Amy going into the records, that, and with my permission, was able to dissolve, if you will, anything that we might have made in the way of agreements. I have no other explanation for why it happened.
That's amazing. How long did you know that friend?
A couple of years.
Years. Wow. Isn't it amazing how that can work?
So I believe in them. But I'm a real person who I believe in the way of, I am a real person, obviously, but I mean, I'm the type of person, I should say.
You are AI.
I don't like to make this kind of work sound very elitist, because it's not. We all have these abilities, and we find teachers and mentors, if we're not sure how to do this ourselves, that maybe we resonate with what they're teaching, and we learn to be able to do it for ourselves, because I truly believe we all have these abilities.
So Amy is your mentor? That's her name? Yeah.
Amy Robeson. She has a TikTok. I think she started podcasting in the last year or so. She also has, I think it's called Sacred Awakenings on Facebook. She gives away so much. Like, she does so many things. Like, she gets into goddess things and helping you discover your goddess. She's taught light language. There's many, many other things that she does. Like, she has a very active group. She gives a lot away for free. So you can try it out and see if this is amazing. Something that, I recommend her wholeheartedly.
Does she, when she figures out what crystals to use, is it always the same types of crystal, or is it individualized?
Individualized. Okay. No, I took the course many years ago, so it could have evolved and changed from what I took. But this is my whole manual. I pulled it out. I made the binder, obviously, but this is my whole manual that I took. And I've gone through the second part of the course, whereas she was teaching us how to, I haven't quite completed it. There's no limit, but about going into the records of, say, like I mentioned, properties, buildings, things like that, right? Because everything has a record.
Hmm. Interesting. It reminds me of Greek mythology, and I can't remember what it is.
Okay.
Oh, I can't remember. Something about. Oh, I don't think it's Ariadne. Something about webs or no. Oh, jeepers, I can't remember. Anyways, it's about past, present, and future lives as well, but I can't remember what it's called. Anyways, so you spoke a little bit about how you do this. Could you give us step by step from the beginning to the end how you do this when a client reaches out to you?
Yeah. So if a client reaches out to me, let me grow my glasses. And let's see. So there is a particular prayer that we can say. It's not religious based, but what it basically before I would do a session with you, I would make sure I'm grounded, and I like to connect to source ahead of time. Is what I do with the chakras. I have my own thing that I do. And then I open my own records first because that's part of the process. So
Okay.
I basically just say, Dear masters, teachers, and loved ones, I'm asking for permission to open my Akashic records. I'm oversimplifying, but that's basically what I do. The other thing that's very important too that I forgot to mention when I'm working with clients, that we have your legal name. Your legal name, or the one that you use most, like we've had people maybe gone through a divorce. So what name do I use? So it's the one that you were using in present day most, like all the time kind of thing.
Okay.
And the reason why no alcohol or substances for 24 hours before, because it can very much interfere with your energetic signature as well. Because, I'm connecting you, and I walk you through this. So I'll back up, but I'm connecting you to your records. So we're kind of like a team together, if you will, and we're accessing the records. So what I do is, like I said, open the records for you. I'll have you come see me. I will probably walk you through a grounding scenario. It's just easy. I believe it's more easier to connect to spirit being grounded.
Can you quickly explain to those who don't know how to do that, how it's done to be grounded?
Yes. Okay, so say I was going to do it with you. And I do a lot of grounding with my clients. I get you to take a deep breath in, hold it for a few seconds, breathe out, maybe 2 or 3. Have you close your eyes. And lots of times I'll just channel it, or the simplest way is I would have you imagine there was a giant tree growing up in the sky and there's roots coming down. The roots are going to come through the top of your head or your crown chakra. You're going to imagine those roots growing all the way down through your core of your body, down your legs, out through your feet. And then you're going to imagine those roots growing right into the ground. They're twisting and turning. You want them really growing into the ground until we get to the center of the earth. Now, one of my favorite things that I like to do with my clients is I ask them to picture, sense, feel, or imagine, right? Those roots growing. And we get to the center of the earth, and I tell them, you're going to sense, feel, or imagine either, I got to close my eyes to think this, either a beautiful rock, or you may see a being, Gaia. And I ask them to imagine, sense, feel, or, because some people it's hard for them to imagine, but we're going to take those roots and we're going to plug them in either to that rock or to the heart center of Gaia. Okay. Part of that is then I ask them on their behalf that Gaia take what no longer serves them, right? And with the purpose of taking what no longer serves their highest purpose or them. And then she can then release that or alchemize it up into the ethers, if you will, whomever may need that energy, because energy is not destroyable, right? It can be transferred from one place to another. Meanwhile, and I don't go through all these explanations when I'm doing it either. So once we're connected, we take a few deep breaths in and out, right? And then I get them to sense, see, feel, or imagine that Gaia is sending them exactly what they need. Or if it's a rock, maybe they see a beautiful rock or just earth, whatever they see, that you are now being sent, meaning my client, whatever you need in love and for your highest purpose at the moment. and we're imagining where those roots have plugged in, if you will, then we're going to then be receiving that energy. So I usually guide it up all the way back up through the roots, up through the bottom of the feet, the legs, the body, up through the crown. And then what I like to do, and this is something Spirit has taught me, when we see that energy starting to come up out the top of the head, imagine it then starts wrapping in the most beautiful pattern around you. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you. In the most beautiful, you can pick gold. I like gold, but you pick whatever color works for you that's wrapping you in the most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful energy. And that's usually what I do with people to ground them. Then, and it doesn't take that long either. I'm being very explanatory. So usually
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So then afterwards, we're going to take a few deep breaths, and I'm going to get you to imagine somebody that you deeply, deeply love. And I want you to picture that love where your heart is. And then I get them to kind of feel that love throughout their whole body, wherever. But getting into the seat of the soul takes a little bit of adjustment. Sometimes I tell them to imagine that love in particular. We're going to picture it. It's usually just off to your heart and a little bit lower. So it's not quite at your rib cage. It's sort of at your rib cage, but it's hard to describe. But I know when the person is there, I can feel it, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So once we get them into the seat of their soul, right, the heart space, where then what I do, and it's usually quiet when I do it, but I start focusing on the energy of the crystalline energy, right? And I imagine the infinity symbol working back and forth between their heart space and mine, right? And then we then say the prayer, basically giving your full and asking for permission to be able to, for me to open the records on their behalf. And then I wait to hear intuitively the records are now open. And then we begin. And we start to ask questions. And before I start the session too, I explain, what the masters, teachers, and loved ones are and why they're here. Like we go, it's not a short session. And it's at least an hour, if not longer. And we ask the questions. And I then pass along what I've received. Does this resonate with you? How does this feel? Do you have more questions? Because we ask more and more and more questions. And I always assure people, you're not going to hear something scary. You're not going to hear the masters, teachers, and loved ones order you that you must do this. This is what you have to do. You're going to be receiving it most lovingly and the guidance that is meant in your highest good and love. Then when the session is finished and the person has received the answers they need, we end the session by closing the records. I wait until I hear the records are closed. I make sure my client feels great. And then afterwards, I close the records for myself as well. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Can the client sometimes hear the records are now open, the records are now closed, or is it just you?
I hear it, but if they're intuitive, they might hear it. Yeah. Sure. I'm not going to doubt someone if they hear that. They say, oh, I just heard it was open. Okay, so did I. Usually most times if they're going to hear it, I'm going to hear it or vice versa. So yeah, I want them to be a participant. Yeah. That's why they're coming, right? So if they intuit it, or maybe they feel something else too when the records are open. I am open to that. I'm not the only one receiving. They're receiving. So yeah, whatever serves my client in the best way possible that gives them the answers or guidance that they need, all the better. So say you and I were doing one. I know you're quite intuitive. You may very well hear more information. Feel free to share. Let's talk about it. Yeah, no problem.
That's interesting. So you're kind of like, for lack of a better term, like internet extender. When you have to
provide whatever, mailman, whatever you want. Like I tell people, even with crystal Reiki, a lot of people don't understand what that is, but it's working with your chakras, or some people say chakras, and your energy field, right? And I need to make a video because it's not like typical Reiki that you will see, because I have had different types of Reiki. Same as with the Akashic records. And the thing that I think was a big revelation for me at the end of these courses was, holy cow, I think I've already been doing this without all the formality.
Yeah.
And that's where I think when I work with people and teach them, I want them to recognize that it doesn't need to be so formal. anything we're learning, yes, we need guidelines. We need to
Mm-hmm.
know what the rules are, if you will. But I'm one that really encourages people, if you found a different way or it works better for you, go for it. Or same thing, I'll get students saying to me, well, if I did it this way or I did it that way, and I say, yes, if it works for you, you take kind of, if you will, the guidelines, and
Mm-hmm.
then you work them the way I usually say to people, if you can think it up or dream it up and it's not meant in any other way but in love and your highest good or for whom you're working with, there are no rules. You can't go wrong if you're
Yeah.
coming from a place of love and holding the intention. So if you've thought it up and you think it might work, play with it, try it, work with it. Does it work well? Do you need to tweak it a little bit here and there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, this popped into my head. I used to ask my mother, because she was the second eldest of 13 kids, the oldest
Mm-hmm.
daughter. So she was used to cooking a large amount for each meal. But an amazing cook she was too. And I would ask her, I said, Mom, what's the recipe? She goes, I don't have a recipe. I just throw it in. I'm just like,
Yes.
but how? So when I first went on my own, I had to follow the recipes. And then after a while, it's just,
Yes.
yeah, that just popped into my head when you were explaining that.
You're absolutely right. My mom didn't cook for large. My dad was one. I mean, I think we talked about that the last time.
Yeah.
My dad was one of 17. His
Wow.
mother was not a great cook, but my mother would cook quite a bit. And same thing, I'd say to her, well, what's the recipe? Well, you just know. Let's just do
Yeah.
pinch of this, pinch of that. So I
Yeah.
just love that you said that, Kat. You're absolutely right. You start with the recipe and then
Mhm.
you tweak it accordingly to what works for you. Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And whatever your instincts guide you to. A lot of
Mhm.
times I find, yeah. Wow,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So it's not that formal. And the
Yeah.
records, I believe, are accessible to all of us because they are about us and the things that are in our lives. Plus, the other thing to point out, time is a human concept.
Yeah.
There is no past, present, and future on the other side. We have that for where we live in this reality, this 3D plane on Earth. So
Mm-hmm.
the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. Something else that Spirit's reminding me of is when you ever doubt yourself, if you can do something and you truly believe that you have lived multiple lives to where you are in this day right here,
Mm-hmm.
more than likely you know how to do it. It's just reaching into that energy and what you've done in the past. And it's a little extra step of boost of confidence if you can trust and believe that you got this, you know this, you've done it before, even with just the thought of leaning on, like I tell people, whether you believe in it or not, you have a
Mm-hmm.
team with you always. You are never alone. And asking them to guide you to what you need to be able to tap into that, what you've done before, however you've like languages, for example, more
Mm-hmm.
than likely we've spoken many languages or whatever it may be, but knowing and trusting that you have done this before and you can now do it now, even like I say, using your team, tapping into that energy, asking for signs and symbols or ways, and it works that way, right? All of a sudden you might be thinking of something and you run into somebody, or like you said, the woman in the grocery store with you and you both knew, right?
Yeah.
Earlier. So that
Yeah.
happened that way.
So fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say something and my train derailed.
You should
Oh,
just cut me off because I
jeez.
talk forever.
No. I normally have a pen with me and I was going to write it down. Oh, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll remember what it is
That's what
after.
happens
Oh,
to
yeah.
me. I got so many things going on in my brain, and I'm 100 miles a minute ahead, and then I forget.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it irritates my husband. It's like I forgot what I was saying, like right in the middle of a sentence, because my mind's like,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way.
Oh, that's what
Go ahead.
no, that I remember what I was going to say. So it's kind of like some people when they do something for the very first time and they already know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
How do they know this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I find that's what I was going to say. If I talk long enough, usually it'll come back in a different.
That's funny. So do you think something like that is a little different than genetic memories?
What do you mean, the Akashic records versus genetic memories?
No, kind of like where I just said sometimes somebody can
Oh, I
remember a
got
past life. Yeah, that's something different though, isn't it? Because genetic memories is just what your ancestors, what you're remembering what they've done, isn't it?
That's a good question because I'm feeling into it. And isn't it really one and the same?
Well, that's what
Because
I was wondering. It is kind of is, but it kind of like I don't know.
genetic is physical. If you're looking
Mm-hmm.
at genetic and then you look into the maternal mitochondria, where they think a lot of this is passed down from generation to generation,
Mm-hmm.
get into generational curses. Then you get
Yes.
into trusting that you've done this before, you know this, you've got this.
Mm-hmm.
Does it, okay, spirit's giving me this. It's just a different label and a different way of thinking of it. But when you break it all down to energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but transferred from one place to another. So whatever label you slap on it is coming from spirit.
Okay.
It doesn't
Nice.
matter, but you're able to access it and trust and know that you can. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Well, it does to me.
It was a
If
good
it,
question though, because then
yeah.
I heard spirit that, and I don't hear voices, you guys, if you're here, but I do hear spirit all day long, and I explain it within the mind's eye. I'm very, very clairaudient. So they just tapped in. I wasn't even asking them, and they just heard that. And it
Well,
makes
it just popped into my head. Like, are they one and the same thing, or is there a little bit of a difference? So
mhm.
maybe I was meant to ask. I don't know.
Well, the thing with Amy that I love too, she always says, go and play in the records. You can go there for healing. Like, say you're
Mm.
having a difficult day and just go there and ask for healing and
Mm.
just relax. And, and the more you go and play within the records, as she says, and I love that statement, right? The more and more you will feel it with anything that we do in life as humans, the more that we practice something and we become familiar with it, we only can get better at it, right? And more.
True. Yep.
Mhm.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answered things for people, but I think everybody can do this, but if
Mm-hmm.
you're not sure where to start or what to do, and again, some people may resonate with what I'm saying, but when you say you have this other lady on in a month, she's going to do it completely different than I am. And I know she is, and that's okay. We're meant to work with the people that are meant to find us. And this really resonated with me, and it seemed to work well with the way I work. And there
Mm-hmm.
are people that it will work well with as well that hear this or see this,
It's
and
going to
vice
be
versa.
it's going to be interesting for me too, and I hope for the audience. But to see how your methods differ, or how they're the same.
I will guarantee you it will probably be very much different because I have talked to many different people who offer Akashic records,
Mm-hmm.
readings, or identify as a practitioner. Whatever the label is, doesn't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I have not yet met one person who's worked with different mentors that has the exact same modality, well, except probably to answer or to ask for permission to enter into the records and to make sure that you close out of the records. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, like I've heard many people say it's just a library.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong because none of us are going to know all the answers until we go back home ourselves, I say.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you think would happen if you don't close the records?
Well, I guess depending on who you've got connected, like I know Amy had talked about it that when she got pretty deep into the records, like really deep meditative state, and she had said that she could have gotten lost in there. Just and I've heard this before with others who have gone into like a trance or meditation that
Mm-hmm.
you do need kind of an anchor, if you will, to pull you out. So I think it's just like anything, you leave the records open, right? And then I just don't think it's a good thing. Like I am not saying anything necessarily is bad going to happen with it. What I'm seeing and feeling from spirit is it's almost like a drain of energy, leaving it open. You're connected to that. It's open.
Mm.
It's just better to close it off. Doesn't matter whether, like when I do a remote viewing session on Fridays, and sometimes I've forgotten, and then I'm having these crazy dreams and all kinds of stuff. Now, the records isn't a scary space, but it goes pretty far and pretty deep. And it's not just
Mm-hmm.
human beings. I mean, it's anything within the entire universal, whatever, mini universe, everything's connected to that. So yeah, and again, it's a great question, but that's what I'm feeling. Like it's almost like it feels like a siphon or a leak, if you will, for that doorway to be open.
I've seen that on what was the TV show that I was watching? I think maybe it was Lock and Key. It's I don't know if you've heard of that.
I haven't.
I can't remember where if it's a British series.
Okay.
Netflix only had like 1 or 2 seasons, and it's just like you got to bring it back.
Oh.
But there's these keys that this kid finds in the mansion that they're living, that they were inherited, and it opens different supernatural areas.
Yep.
And this one person got locked into this one location, and they said, well, if we can't find them to bring them back, like they're going to be lost forever. So it's kind of something like that. I think it was Lock and Key.
This sounds familiar as you're talking about it. My partner Del might have watched it, but again, you ask such great questions.
Oh, thank
you.
And
to me, that's what I keep feeling. And because it's not a scary space to be in, but it's vast, like, and you're leaving that open. Like, I always feel like an energy drain in the way. And again, please don't quote me. This is just what I'm feeling and picking up. So it's just better when we're working with anything within this realm, right? We open it and then we close it down. Because I can tell you, I forgot after a remote viewing session, and some of the dreams I was having were crazy through the person's eyes, like really scary stuff underground. And I'm not saying that it would be scary. It just feels like an energy leak. And plus you're also tied, right? Like you create energetic cords with people when you work with them, and then we're tapped into the records. I think it's just a better thing to just close it all down, kind of open and close, if that makes sense.
It does. And anyone watching or listening this, if you have any questions about this at all, reach out to me, reach out to her. If you don't know how to reach to her, send me an email, send me a message, and I'll hook you up with her. Any questions at all?
I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm on all social media platforms under Lorilei Potvin or the Angel Rock. And I do have a business page at the moment. It's facebook.com/the Angel Rock. But with the course that Leanne and I, hopefully by the fall, we're going to get it out there. It's going to be a 1 time a week, multi-week course. We're hoping to build a whole community and start building from, it's like a foundation, if you will. We're going to talk about many of these things. And when that happens, I'm hoping to go to a domain name, and then it'll be easier to find me. But you can find me. My name's spelled so weird. There's not that many Potvins that do what I do, or Angel Rocks.
Yeah, and the links should be in the show notes as well. So,
Thank you for having me. You asked really great questions, Kat. And
thank you.
I always love doing this. I know it's just been twice, but I really enjoy having you on here. You're coming on my show. I'm positive you are soon, aren't you?
I don't know if we set a date yet or not. We'll have to talk about that after.
I'll have to check my phone. I think
we might have. Yeah, I'll have to check my phone too. I can't remember.
You did.
I think we did.
Yeah,
it might be
the fall. It might be. I'm going to check as we're talking. It might be in the fall, but I know you did, because we finally got a route. Well, we're all so busy. That's just it. I'm checking.
Yeah, I'm looking too.
I'm going to see your name. Oh, I found you. Actually, it's a while away. September 29th. You're coming on.
As you said. Oh, I found it. I saw it.
Yeah.
At the same time. Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad we have a date.
Yes. So, and then we can continue these conversations. And I really appreciate you having me on again. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I really appreciate you coming back on. And I'm sure this will be 2 of many more.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And like I say, I'd love to hear what this other lady has to say. And I always say, it's not my job to judge. I have accepted that we all judge, whether we don't want to or not, we do. It's kind of hard.
It's human. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm always interested in hearing too, how other people do similar things to what I do, not to copy them, but to learn from them too. Maybe they've got something different that they do that I'd never even thought of, and maybe vice versa as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sharing knowledge. It's just, like you said, you might learn something that works better for you that you just learned
Yeah.
from somebody else, and vice
I
versa. Yeah.
I'm going to borrow that recipe analogy from you. Always like to give
Sure.
credit where credit is due, but I think that's a really, really, it's an easy way to explain to people about how you've got the recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you start to make it more and more, you start to tweak it and find things or shortcuts or other things you can add to the recipe that make it
Mm-hmm.
taste better. And I think that's such a fantastic analogy. So thank you
Thanks.
for
Oh,
that.
no
Mhm.
problem. Yeah. I like to try it. Just things pop in my mind that helps me understand things better. And it's just um, how my mind works.
Well, mine does similarly too. Like I said, I like to use analogies, and it's very overly
Yeah.
simplistic to explain source as a big, if you will, lump of clay creating things. But
Yeah.
even though everything's separate, it all came from that clay. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all connected, all made of the same stuff. And it kind of, I know I kind of need that as well to kind of figure out some of these things. Like, does it make sense? And I hope that sometimes it resonates with others too. So that was a really good analogy.
Thanks. Kind of
Mhm.
like how I use the paranormal garden.
Oh, I
It's
want to
like
hear this.
a garden where
Mhm.
you can have flower garden, a rock garden, vegetable garden, whatever, flowers, but
Mhm.
it's still a garden. And it's the same with the paranormal. You have ghosts, you have cryptids, you have UFOs. It's still a garden, but they're
Mhm.
all different, but still a garden.
I love that. But that's what makes it easy. It's this, like I have another one that I teach people about, having somebody show you something, especially when it has to do with, and I know it's not our topic today, but Ouija boards. And,
Mm,
Ouija boards aren't evil. And I use the analogy of somebody thinking that a chainsaw they've heard is a good thing to cut down a chain link fence. It's a longer story, but to keep it short, the person is absolutely shocked. They didn't have any guidance. They got lucky. They started the chainsaw, and when they went to cut the chain link fence, the chainsaw kicked back and cut their arm off, and they were absolutely shocked. Now, is
hmm
the chainsaw evil? No. You
No,
didn't
it's
have
just,
somebody show you how to use it. And plus, you don't use a chainsaw to cut down a chain link fence. Same thing,
hmm
like tools are not evil. It's how we use them and intention, and have somebody show you how to use it and not use it. Even with the
yes.
records today, where there's nothing evil or scary with the Akashic records,
hmm
but still to have somebody to show you how to access them, how to close them, and why. And then you get to go in there. Anybody listening, if it resonates, go in there and play and see what the answers you get, knowing if you receive somebody telling you, or you believe you're picking up that you must, or you should, you have to. That's ego. That's not the masters, teachers, and loved ones. They'll
That's
always
right.
meet you where you're at. There's nothing scary you will receive. It's just loving, wonderful guidance, and things maybe we might not have picked up on our own. And it's a wonderful place to go and play.
I like how you worded that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I think we mentioned how the audience can find you.
yes, yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have I do have the Angel Rock on Mondays from
Yep.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on UPRN. And then tomorrow night, every Thursday, Kerrilynn Shellhorn and I and she's a fellow UPRN host of Spirit Switchboard on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We co-host a show together called Beneath the Hollow Moon. And each week we pick a different topic. We have kind of a spooky kind of vibe. We have a little bit of, like, if you're in a tent when you're little, telling ghost stories. So we have a light below us. We usually dress up according to the theme. This week it's vampires.
Oh,
So
I love vampires.
mhm. Yeah. And then
Okay.
get
Cool.
a hold of me on all social media platforms. And I do work with people for readings. I used to separate it. I don't anymore. I just pull in everything I do. Crystal Reiki is a little different but anything else, mediumship, psychic readings. I've been in a reading where it's been suggested, if the client was open to open their Akashic records, and we did it. So it
Oh
just,
wow.
yeah, Yeah, I've had that. Same as I've had clients where I know people in other fields that I will feel or hear from spirit. If the client is open to it, would you be willing to connect with so and so, because it's their field of expertise that they work in? There's
Mm-hmm.
enough for everybody, right? And so
Yeah.
I just go with whatever I receive.
Nice. Well,
So
thank you so very much. I really appreciate you.
me too. I keep saying that to everybody. How did I not know you were on our network? I'm so glad that Kerrilynn told me. And you and I have so much in common every time
I
we talk.
know. Both live in Ontario too. Like,
Yes,
what?
yes. And I'm so glad that we got to connect. And thank you
Me
again.
too.
I can't wait to have you on my show. We got 2
Me
hours.
too. Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Yes, yes.
Okay, hang tight. I'm going to say bye to the audience and we can chat a little bit if you have a couple of minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to my special guest tonight, my amazing audience, and UPRN 107.7 New Orleans, almost mispronounced that, 105.3 the Gulf Coast. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please support us by liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. Another way to help support the show is by grabbing some swag. If you'd like to pick up your very own Paranormal Heart podcast mug, if you're watching the video, you can see it here. Please send me an email at paranormalheart13@gmail.com. Until next time, take care of each other and much love to you all.